So we're going to deal with this whole issue of divorce, Christian marriage. How does it work in Jesus' eyes? My friends, come on in. Welcome to Breakfast with Bradley. I'm so glad that you're here. Hey, listen, we're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about divorce from Jesus' perspective. And this one's going to be kind of fun. So let's just dive right in. I want to take you to Matthew chapter 19. We're going to look at two verses, okay? We're going to look at 5 and 6, and then we're just going to do this, okay? Here it comes. All right, it says, "And therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate." Okay. So I know that we live in a culture and we live in a time that has a lot more to say about how relationships work and why we should get married and why we shouldn't get married, which is not foreign to what's happening right here in this text. In fact, the Pharisees are really upset about Jesus' ministry, and they're trying to find a way to completely remove him from the social scene. So what they try and do is they try and get him on a technicality by bringing up Moses allowing people for divorce. Now they know, in accordance with what God's heart is, that God never wants divorce. But they also know that there is this strange opportunity for divorce within the law of Moses. And so they try and catch Jesus on a technicality here. What we need to realize is that the social constructs of our day do not define God's original intention. And that needs to start forming how we view what marriage should be about. Marriage in itself is between one man and one woman before God. So both the man and the woman are mutual beneficiaries of each other, but their covenant is not with each other, it's with God for each other. That's totally different. And out of that, what God does is he takes two individuals and makes one. So he no longer sees two, he only sees one before him. And of course, the byproduct of that is children. Now, in this whole narrative, we have to understand that creation in its goodness and its perfect state is where marriage was formed. So in other words, marriage was formed before man fell, before sin entered. And if that's the case, then marriage after sin is going to be a messy ordeal, all right? But with that messy ordeal, the Pharisees try and trap Jesus, much like today how we try and trap Christianity and the idea of marriage, which are cultural context and our ideas about how people should be gendered and how people should feel about who they are as a person, so on and so forth. The Bible is very clear that biblical marriage, Christian marriage, is between one man and one woman before God for each other, okay? And out of that, Jesus calls the Pharisees back to the beginning, back to this perfect state where this is how God's heart had originally seen marriage. And now that there is this other opportunity that Moses introduced is not because of it's not because of God's heart. It's actually because of the hardness of our heart, because of the byproduct of sin. Okay? And so this is kind of dealing with a home that gets so far out of whack where the two individuals that are in marriage are more dangerous to each other than they are beneficial to each other. Kind of like how we have in our bodies an autoimmune disease where our immune system actually attacks our own body. That's not a good thing and it destroys us. And so a marriage that is attacking itself destroys itself. I've read in a book somewhere that a house divided against itself can't fall. But what we need to understand here is what Jesus is talking about in marriage is that it should be like it was in the beginning and that there's no excuse outside of unfaithfulness to get out of it. Now, my friends, this deals with a lot of different issues and brings up a lot of questions. What do I do if this is not where I'm at today? What if I do if I failed in marriage? What if I do if, I was in a horrible situation as marriage? What you have to understand is that this is what God wants. And if we're outside of that, he has grace for us, but we need to come back in line with what his heart and will is for our lives. So there's never a place where God won't meet us to get us out of our mess. But we have to realize that in his extension of grace to meet us, he is not saying that what we're doing is okay. Here's the bottom line. Marriage is sacred before God. It is something that is very important with him. And because in the beginning there was no separation between God and man, there was not sin to create that divide, God was radically involved in marriage, like he should be today. Christian marriage is about being radically engaged with God so that he can transform you into the person he wants you to be, so that the partner and spouse that you have in covenant before him, there's compatibility because you're both becoming like God, because you're both becoming like Christ, because you're both becoming like Jesus, and there is a love from God that flows in the marriage that is no longer about individuals, it's no longer about compatibility, it is simply about unity, and that with God. Oh, that is a little bit more of an explanation on how this biblical marriage things work. It's very, very different than what we see in the world, and it's very, very different than sometimes what we expect from our marriage, where it's just a promise and agreement between two people. This is the covenant before God between man and woman to be brought together as one so that God can bless them through children. My friends, Breakfast with Bradley is making a powerful difference, and you are part of that. If you would consider joining with us financially to reach more people, go to our Patreon account and sign up, and my friends, we'll make a powerful difference in all those who want to hear. Thanks for being part of us. God bless you.